Championship Wrestling, bringing you great wrestling action sanctioned by the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to World Championship Wrestling. Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross ringside with the NWA, the Major League of Professional Wrestling. David Crockett not with us here today. He is on assignment. He'll be back with us next week. We're into the month of August now, and tonight in Oakland at the Kaiser Convention Center, the Great American Bash, and the Great American Bash, which has been a great summer for the NWA, ends up tomorrow night in the Kemper Arena in Kansas City. What a great way to end a great summer.
It's going to be a great facility there. Of course, the Kemper Arena, we expect a record-setting crowd in Kansas City tomorrow night. I know Tony and I both are looking forward to being there. And a few fans that cannot be with us in Kemper can join us along our 900-number NWA hotline. And as Tony mentioned, we're going to see some of the great stars in the hour. Some of the great tag teams in wrestling will be here today, including the Varsity Club, the Sheepherders. We're also going to hear some very important interviews from the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. We're going to hear from Lex Luger, Ric Flair. It's going to be, I think, one of the most informative hours that we've had in quite some time.
We're also going to see a segment here a little bit later on where the Texas Outlaws have reunited. I know that's exciting for fans all over the country.
You're exactly right. Dick Murdoch and Dusty Rhodes back together again. At one time, they formed the toughest tag team and most talented tag team in all of wrestling, and that combination lasted 9 years. It's going to be very interesting to see where it goes from here.
Okay, we got a great program for you here today. Let's go to the ring with our first event. Gauge Master Kevin Sullivan brings in the Varsity Club, and as we go to the month of August, Jim Ross, the rematch signed, Ric Flair and Lex Luger for the World Heavyweight title. There's a lot of noise made by the U.S. champions, Jim Cornette's Midnight Express, about the World Tag Team title. There is no doubt that during the month of August, the NWA, a lot of excitement, especially now that the rematch has been signed.
Well, Tony, you're exactly right, and we thought that the action would peak when the bash is over. We're sadly mistaken because, well, there's no doubt with the rematch sign between Flair and Luger, with Dusty Rhodes and, oh, what a clothesline by Steiner. Rhodes and Ronnie Garvin hooking it up. You got Dr. Death challenging this man right here. The battle for the television championship wages on. Jim Cornette, Midnight Express, wanting the World Tag Team Championship. They've issued an open challenge to Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. Those contracts have been signed. The month of August, known in some parts of the country for the hottest month of the year, the hottest temperatures. I think we can say, Tony, that the month of August will be the hottest of the entire summer for the NWA.
Well, we have had a flood of calls, the officers of the NWA, about the rematch, Ric Flair and Lex Luger. And thank goodness it didn't take long to negotiate it this time. There's the Games Master stomping away at Holiday now and slaps the man in the rib cage and on the face, knocks him down. You know, if there's one man that can motivate his troops, certainly it's Kevin Sullivan.
He's a great motivator, but he's also a very evil and dangerous individual. Kevin Sullivan is walking around with something in his hand, and you got to think it's either a letter or some type of correspondence regarding Precious. This man still, even though the Tower of Doom in Baltimore is in the record books, the Tower of Doom series has certainly not ended, and Kevin Sullivan's quest to regain Precious' affection has certainly not ended either.
Steiner with Holiday, ripping across the face. You take a look at Holiday down on the seat of his pants there. The NWA, the Major League of Professional Wrestling, the excitement still to come during the month of August. We have many great events coming up, and I know our fans in Charlotte at the new Charlotte Coliseum looking forward to the first wrestling event there, the NWA.
Sullivan is continually staring and gazing at this piece of paper that he's carrying around with him. I'm going to be talking with him, Tony, later in the program, and maybe we can find out a little bit about, maybe even let us see exactly what is written on that document.
There's a look at the Games Master, Kevin Sullivan. Well, we talk about how wild he is and crazy, but in the ring, Kevin Sullivan, for many years, one of the greatest athletes in our sport, great power lifter, very strong, and he has taken his knowledge right to his men, there's no doubt. They gained from him more than just the crazy ways.
Kevin Sullivan was the last four-sport letterman in the state of Massachusetts. He won the state amateur wrestling championship in high school 4 times at 4 different weights. So to say that Sullivan's not an athlete, oh, what a power slam. This man's an athlete too, would be rather ludicrous. Sullivan is a great athlete, but perhaps that it is his threshold of pain and his, I don't know, he's got a great temperament for a middle linebacker in the NFL. He doesn't care about anybody. Pain is not a factor in his day-to-day existence.
Yeah, he glances at the paper one more time, and with a snap suplex, Rotunda, the world television champion, will tag in Steiner. And Steiner, he's a happy man when he is hurting somebody with a great belly-to-belly suplex.
He's an awesome competitor, and Sullivan has got 2 of the finest wrestling machines in the entire sport. Right there you see him from Michigan and from Syracuse. I tell you, he comes over here, that glazed look in his eye, demented individual as he is. Tony Schiavone's going to be talking to Kevin Sullivan, Rick Steiner, and the television champion Mike Rotunda here momentarily. But this one, what a belly-to-belly suplex. Steiner and Rotunda, winners. The Varsity Club victorious here on Superstation TBS. And now let's go to Tony Schiavone.
All right, Jim Ross, thank you very much. Let's bring in the Varsity Club. The Wild Varsity Club. Kevin Sullivan is walking away from us now, but let's talk about this title. And there's many challenges out there, including Dr. Death Steve Williams from Oklahoma. All right, the Florida heavyweight title also.
What'd you do with the paper? Let me see. The one they sent to the lawyer, idiot.
Oh, nothing about it. I wasn't involved. No.
Anyways,
what are we talking about?
Dr. Death, or Dr. Death's people, has sent a letter to our people informing us that he wants to wrestle me. I think it was in his hometown, maybe Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
I can beat him there, too.
You're not even wrestling him. I'm wrestling him, goof.
Well, if he wasn't, I could beat him if he wasn't.
He doesn't want the Florida title. He wants the
Hey,
world television title.
This one's bigger, too. Look at that.
First of all, I will wrestle Dr. Death. It doesn't matter where it is. In the United States, I'll wrestle him. Because obviously he thinks he can take the title away from me. But what he doesn't understand is I'm a college graduate from Syracuse University. That's right. That's right. You hear that, man? There's a smart man. He knows what it's all about. Not Michigan. Syracuse is what it's all about, pal.
You didn't graduate.
I graduated with honors.
Did
I was at the top of my class.
Not today.
You brought your legs on his face. Not today. Dr. Death, come and get it.
All right, fans, you need a referee instead of an announcer here when they're together. We'll have more information right after this. It's the NWA, the Major League of Professional Wrestling, at the Civic Center in Savannah, Georgia, Tuesday, August 30th, bell time 8 o'clock in Savannah. Memorial Auditorium, Greenville, South Carolina, Monday, August 29th, 8 o'clock the bell time in Greenville. The Greensboro Coliseum, Greensboro, North Carolina, Sunday, August 28th, bell time 8 o'clock in Greensboro. The new Charlotte Coliseum in Charlotte, North Carolina, Saturday, August 27th, the bell time 8 o'clock in Charlotte. The Omni in Atlanta, Friday, August 26th, bell time 8 o'clock at the Omni in Atlanta. The Municipal Auditorium, Columbus, Georgia, Thursday, August 25th, the bell time 8 o'clock, that's in Columbus. Fairgrounds Exhibition Center Arena, Sumter, South Carolina, Tuesday, August 23rd, 8 o'clock at the Exhibition Center Arena in Sumter, South Carolina. The Cincinnati Gardens, Cincinnati, Ohio, Sunday, August 21st, bell time 8 o'clock in Cincinnati. The Civic Center, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, on Saturday, August 20th, 8 o'clock bell time in Philadelphia. The Richmond Coliseum, Richmond, Virginia, Friday, August 19th, 8 o'clock bell time in Richmond. The Dorton Arena, Raleigh, North Carolina, Thursday, August 18th, bell time 8 o'clock at the Dorton Arena in Raleigh. The Scope Coliseum in Norfolk, Virginia, Friday, August 12th, bell time 8 o'clock at the Norfolk Scope Coliseum. And tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, the Kemper Arena, Kansas City, Missouri. All the top stars of the NWA. Tomorrow night, bell time 8 o'clock at the Kemper Arena in Kansas City. It's the NWA, the Major League of Professional Wrestling. Herders are here, the New Zealand Sheep Herders, along with Rip Morgan, against Tony Stuber and Brett Holliday in this event on World Championship Wrestling, Jim Ross.
The New Zealand War Haka. I don't know what I feel like Marlon Marlon Perkins of the Wild Kingdom or something about Jacques Cousteau in the National Geographic here. Speaking of the Wild Kingdom, they come from down under in New Zealand, the sheep herders. Butch Miller and Luke Williams have aggressively campaigned in about 38 countries. And I want to tell you something, Tony, they made a comment. I tried to carry on a conversation with them before we went on the air. They are very upset with Jim Cornette's Midnight Express getting so much publicity with their challenge of Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. They feel like that they should be in line for a U.S. Tag Team title matchup or the World Tag Team titles, and they don't care who they have to wrestle to get it. But it looks like they may have to go through a team like the Rock and Roll Express, the Fantastics, or someone like that, another also great competitors, before they can wrestle for the championship. But they're very upset that they haven't been getting their just due, their publicity that they should have had.
You know, when you think about it, going up against a team like the sheep herders, there's no doubt, even though they're bizarre, Jim, and they're very wild, they're a team that will take a lot out of you. And I know as far as Tully and Arn are concerned, if you don't have to wrestle them, leave them alone as far as they're concerned, because they're wild. They may not beat you for the title, but they may hurt you enough to where you would lose the title in the night to come.
You're exactly right. Very good point. They may, their physical style really takes the toll on anybody they're in the ring with. And Luke Williams could have pinned that man right there as easily as not. But that's not what they're here for today at this point in time. Obviously, they're here to pin somebody and to win. But I think as much as anything else, they're here to be on the Superstation to show their very aggressive style and to show that they're ready to challenge for a tag team championship. They have been champions in 37 countries, they say. And I know that they've held many regional championships here in the United States.
Right now, Miller's stomping the back of the head of Holiday, and he is stomping around. You know, you talk about having a conversation with these two men. I think very soon that they will get their title shot, although, like you said, you got to go through some other competitors because the tag team situation right now is really good with the Fantastics, with the Rock and Roll Express. You have the Varsity Club together. We saw two guys out here who obviously wanted to argue amongst each other, but when Steiner and Rotunda getting together, they're a great tag team. So it's a process now of moving up the ladder of the NWA because they may have been champions of 37 countries, and Super with a great power slam right there, but once you get to the NWA, you're right at the top of your sport, so it all changes.
You're exactly right. It's basically a process of elimination because you've got other great athletes that are looking for tag team opportunities like Dr. Death Steve Williams and the Stinger, Nikita Koloff and Sting, Nikita Koloff and Dr. Death. Endless combinations of men that want to go for the most coveted prize in wrestling. So the Midnight Express, they may be the loudest of the challengers. Jim Cornette may be the loudest, most vociferous of the men that are going and saying, hey, we want a championship match, because he gets the opportunity to come out here and talk about it a lot. But the sheep herders and the men that we've mentioned all are viable contenders for the World Championship, whether it be Cornette's U.S. title, on the Midnight Express more specifically, or the Horsemen's Championship.
And I think teams like the sheep herders, like the Midnight Express, Rock and Roll, and Fantastics are really more of a challenge than a Sting and Nikita Koloff. And that's not taking anything away from those two athletes, but we're talking about tag frequency, knowing each other, traveling together, tagging in and out on a daily basis. Sting and Nikita Koloff do not do that, so I'm sure when Arn and Tully look at a list of challengers, they would rather wrestle a Sting and a Nikita Koloff together than they would a sheep herders, on the simple fact that they don't tag together that much.
You're signing to wrestle a unit, not two individuals.
Right.
And these two individuals right here, I have never seen these two men in a single match, and I have been around them a long, long time. And that's a very unusual trait in this day and age of professional wrestling. But they are indeed tag team specialists, the sheep herders, and they are also victorious right here on World Championship Wrestling. And also today, we're going to see their young nephew, Rip Morgan, in action as well.
Well, the winner's the sheep herders. Jim Ross making his way over to talk to him. Jim, he didn't get a chance to understand what they were talking about earlier. Now's another chance. We're going to take a look at the double knee drop right here. Down goes Holiday at the hands of the sheep herders. Certainly one of the top tag teams, no doubt, after many of these great tag team titles in the NWA. Let's go to Jim Ross right now at ringside.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here at ringside with the sheep herders, and I know that you gentlemen are a little upset that the Midnight Express are first in line for the World Tag Team titles.
You know something, Jim Rossi? The sheep herders and the Little Express, we're bloody well completely upset, you hear me?
Yes, cousin.
You know, Jim Ross, 38 different countries the sheep herders have been through. We have the best credentials of any bloody tag team in the world today.
Cousin, the best.
And you know something, Jim Ross? We don't care. We're going to start a crippling. We're going to start a hurting. If we're going to go over the Midnight Express, if we're going to go over the Rock and Roll Express, and if we're going to take on the Four Horsemen themselves, we're going to do it. You know why? Because we're the men from down under. We're the men from New Zealand. We're the sheep herders, the Minutemen, and you Yanks are nothing but bloody scumbags. You hear me? Dirt underneath our feet. So it's time, Jim Ross. It's time for the sheep herders to show you bloody Yanks
We're on the march,
the superiority that we have. We're marching on it. We ain't gonna stop, Jim Ross. We're going over them all. The whole lot. The Midnight Express. Down you go. The Rock and Roll Express. Down you go. Down you go. The Four Horsemen. Down you go. And we will become the new NWA Tag Team Bloody Champions. Whoa!
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. It sounds like they spent too much time in the sheep shed, and it smells that way, too. We'll be right back.
The man from the...
Brad Armstrong against Joe Cruz in this event on World Championship Wrestling. And you know, Jim, we take a look at a lot of great athletes out here. Sting, Nikita Koloff, Dr. Death, we saw Mike Rotunda. Brad Armstrong is certainly a man that has all the ability in the world, and I know a big part of wrestling is contract negotiations. That's been brought out the last couple of weeks right here on the Superstation. I know, given the chance, Brad Armstrong could win a major title.
You know, athletes have agents and athletes have attorneys that work for them in legal means, obviously. And Brad Armstrong apparently has not been getting the very best advice in his legal aspects of his professional wrestling career for the past few years. That's, of course, my opinion. I'm not a member of the bar, so I've been in a few bars, but I'm a member of the bar. But Brad Armstrong now, I think, has moved into a level to where he is. His people are actively negotiating for championship events. They're keeping very close tabs of his one-loss record. He's a tremendous athlete. What a reversal right there. Joe Cruz thought he was going to be able to bring Armstrong out of the ring, but Armstrong he dropped down and came in with the arm drag. But Armstrong, his people are doing a much better job. And a man like Barry Windham, the United States Championship, is certainly not safe. We know that the Stinger is very interested in wrestling Barry Windham for the U.S. heavyweight title. But Brad Armstrong is also another young man that feels like that he matches up extremely well with Barry Windham, and with his quickness and his athletic ability, he thinks that he has a better than average opportunity to take that U.S. title away from Windham.
Cruz shoots him into the ropes to the left side. Over the top goes Cruz. Brad Armstrong with a good knee left, sending Cruz down to the middle of the mat. You know, I'm not really accusing any of the top names in our sport, any of the champions, of avoiding people. But it's very easy when you're the champion to call the shots, to say who you want to be your opponent. Ric Flair and James J. Dillon demanded a lot for the rematch, which I assume, not knowing the terms of the contract, I assume they got. And I'm sure when Brad Armstrong's name is passed along, that there's a tendency to say, well, not right now. Probably in respect of Brad as much as anything else, his ability.
Well, Armstrong has always impressed me with his attitude and his desire. He's fundamentally so sound. He's a second-generation wrestler, as is Barry Windham. And Armstrong, even though he is young in years, has long on pro wrestling experience. He's grown up in this sport. He has watched his father wrestle when Brad was just in elementary school. He's been around the squared circle for years and years. And Cincinnati loves the NWA, and, of course, the NWA back in Cincinnati in the not-too-distant future here in the month of August. But Armstrong, as I mentioned, is long on experience, even though he is young on years, because he's been around the sport so long. And that leads to say that he doesn't make many mistakes in the ring. He has great ring presence. and he learned the fundamentals extremely well, and he's getting better and better all the time. There's a great military takeover. I tell you something, he can wrestle. He can wrestle you.
And that's probably what worries them as much as anything else, because Armstrong can wrestle you. In this day of great wrestlers and great champions, there's a lot of fighting going on, but the name of the game is wrestling, and as you said, a second-generation wrestler, Brad Armstrong, certainly, and showing us right here, right on top of his sport. There is no doubt this man has to be considered a top contender to all major titles in the NWA. Right now, he's up against the ropes. Cruz will shoot him to the other side. Cruz missed, and there's a side Russian leg sweep from Armstrong, and that's going to do it, Jim Ross. Down goes Cruz.
That was a great move by Brad Armstrong, the Marietta, Georgia native, and I'm sure all the fans in Marietta will be on hand on Friday night, August 26th in the Omni, right here in Atlanta. 8 o'clock starting time. Tickets are on sale here locally at all seats outlets, and the fans of Marietta will be packing the Omni. Brad Armstrong's going to be there and all the top stars, but Brad with a great victory with a Russian leg sweep.
Fans, now here's how you can order the video of the great American. I want to be a J.C. Wild because Kevin Sullivan is like a caged animal, Jim Ross, and he is exploding right now on Wild. He's down on the floor with a chair.
Sullivan just nailed him in the back with that chair, and you talk about a vicious individual. A man with animalistic tendencies is Kevin Sullivan. We said he had the temperament of an NFL middle linebacker. That's a throwback to the days of the Dick Buckus and the Ray Nitschke's, Sam Huff,
right.
Those middle linebackers that cared not for their bodies or their opponents, and that's exactly the way Sullivan is right here.
Oh, no. That's a solid podium right there.
That thing is solid wood, and it is heavy, I'll tell you that. They're knocking things around here, moving some furniture. Kevin Sullivan is a wild animal. He's a man possessed, Tony. It's a funny thing what a woman can do to a man, isn't it?
You're not kidding. Goes to show you what controls the world, I tell you that.
It'll certainly change your attitude and your outlook on life. And I'm sure a lot of guys out there that send those checks the first of the month like I do can understand what we're talking about. But Kevin Sullivan is taking it one giant step beyond that, I'll tell you that.
Now, stomping away at the midsection, Sullivan. You know, this goes back to what we were talking about. You talked about the mentality of a middle linebacker, the ability of a great professional wrestler, because Sullivan is powerful, he is strong. Those blows of his are very, very heavy. He's a fine athlete.
You know, we've been to the very beginning of the program for you fans that may have just joined us. He's the last four-sport letterman in high school athletics in the state of Massachusetts and won the state amateur wrestling championship 4 times at 4 different weights. So let's not discount his athletic ability. I mean, to win a state championship is one thing. To win it 4 times at 4 different weights is something else. But something has changed this man. The days of high school activity is certainly over.
Good at Jim Ross.
All right, Tony, thank you.
I want everybody to listen to the life story of Kevin Sullivan. See, I used to believe that there was something called an American dream. I used to believe that if you worked hard and you did right, you get that 2 cars, you get the garage, you get the house, and you get everything you wanted. The only thing you get if you believe in the American dream is the shaft. You see, when I was floundering in the sea of life and I didn't know where to go, I went to Asia and I met a very wise man, Habuddin himself. And he told me I had to purge my way of the American way of life. The American dream, he told me, is dead. It is nothing but a lie. See, so first, he took me to the lady of the third eye, and I lay with her for 13 days and 13 nights, and she taught me things not many men know. And the second thing is, I went to the Ganges River with the pilgrims and bathed with the people of the dead. The third thing I did was, I went into the land of the blind and ate monkey brains with the blind man. The fourth thing was, I went to the streets of Calcutta and I laid with the lepers. And I purged myself of the American way. And Jim Ross, as I'm standing here now, and these people here, and people at home know one thing. I have never lied yet. Never. So, Patty, let me tell you this, sweetheart. The Tower of Doom wasn't the end. And it's just the beginning. And Ross, you know she flipped and lied.
What was in that paper that we saw you carrying around earlier in the program?
The paper is right here. See, Patty, it takes a very, very strenuous woman to go in Miami like you did and risk your life for what's on this paper. Well, I'll tell you what, Patty, I'm your friend. You want to know what's on the paper?
I do.
You don't have to come into the lion's den anymore. You don't have to come to Mohammed. The mountain has come to you. Patty, here's what you want. I'm giving it to Jim Ross. Read it, baby, and weep, because, Patty, you know where I'm coming from. And Dusty Rhodes, let me tell you what, the American dream is dead forever in my heart.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, he's left it with me. We'll address this situation more in the hour, and we'll hear from the total package when we come back on the Superstation.
Main event, the biggest, the best, the hardest hitting, and the most spectacular arena bouts in America can be seen on Superstation TBS. It's all action, and it's all right here. The NWA main event, 5:35 Eastern on Superstation TBS Sunday.
Welcome back to World Championship Wrestling. Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone here with you. David Crockett on assignment. And we're going to take a look right now at an interview that I conducted a few days ago with Lex Luger, who has to be considered the #1 contender for the world's heavyweight title. We talked a lot about negotiations and attorneys and agents and James J. Dillon advisories and so forth and so on. One man that has been very easy to negotiate with, I should say, has been Lex Luger.
There is no doubt. A lot of demands have been made from the world champion, from the camp of the Four Horsemen. But Luger simply said, I want to do it again because I thought, and many fans did, thought that he was rightfully the world heavyweight champion out of Baltimore. Jim Ross had a chance to talk to him. And here's his comments on the
Championship Wrestling, Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross.
We're ringside, and this match will feature Tommy Angel and Bob Riddle against the Alabama Junior Heavyweight Champion Mike Jackson and Curtis Thompson.
You know, fans at home saying, well, we recognize these guys, but why are they wrestling each other? And from time to time, when you look at young guys that are trying to climb up the ladder, guys that are trying to get their break in wrestling, well, then you look at these guys. They toil away in the gymnasium. They're trying to get better at their skill, at their sport. And this match is Riddle there. Mike Jackson reversed the hip toss from Bob Riddle. Riddle tried to power him over, but Jackson used his quickness to get out of it. Jackson, the junior heavyweight champion, from Alabama, the Alabama junior heavyweight champion. But the point I was making is that in matches like this, you get guys that don't have the best one-loss records, that want to make an impression with promoters around the country right here on the greatest vehicle nationally to do that, and that's the Superstation. So I think you're going to see these four guys really let it out and try to rack up a very important victory right here on the Superstation.
Riddle sent the knee to the midsection of the Alabama Junior Heavyweight Champion Mike Jackson. You talking about really paying your dues. These young guys really do. Luger just talking in the interview about he said he would fly commercial and Flair wanted to fly private. These guys, they drive, buddy, and they put a lot of time in on the road away from their families to try to make it up the ladder wherever they go.
They make a lot of
Angels in. Go ahead, Jim.
They make a lot of, excuse me, Tony, they make a lot of sacrifices, as you mentioned. Traveling with their families, they always they work out to stay in great shape to keep from getting a serious injury. And I'll tell you something, the intensity level of these guys, that's the thing that they've got to be able to rise above. When you hear a man like Lex Luger, that is in magnificent shape, the intensity level that he will have to rise to when he goes for the world's heavyweight title the second time, he's going to have to change gears once again. The level that he was on was not the level that he will have to be on to win the world's title. People say, well, he had Flair beat, but he didn't walk out with the belt. He had him beat, but he's not the world's heavyweight champion. Even Lex Luger, as great as he is going to have to rise to the occasion, as the old sports cliche goes, and wrestle better than he has ever wrestled. Wrestle better than he did in Baltimore to beat Ric Flair.
Well, there is the mystique of Ric Flair and the mystique of being the world heavyweight champion. Luger now comes back into the rematch thinking, I've done everything I can do. Just like you said, I've done everything, and still Flair walks out with the belt. What can I do? You're right. It's not going to be the same Lex Luger that goes in the ring, not the same mentality goes into that rematch.
I think he's going to be much more intense. I think he realized that. He's a very articulate, intelligent individual. You know, he's had several years of college. He's been around big-time athletic programs. He knows that you have to rise to the occasion. You have to get better. And that's exactly what he's doing. Curtis Thompson here and Tommy Angel. Now, these two guys, the interesting contrast here, the fans may see them traveling to one of the events in a car together. But this match, basically a scientific match here, it's to see who has the best skills. 4 guys that have varying degrees of skill levels. Promoters are going to be watching this match here on national TV, as you fans are, and we're seeing these 4 men in a much different light than we normally do.
Well, it all goes back to what we're seeing now with the Midnight Express and Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard. 4 men who are together a lot in the same dressing room, but when it comes to the business at hand, and that's winning wrestling matches, Jim Ross are no friends.
I'm not so sure that one dressing room is going to be big enough with all the negotiations that have gone on and some of the rhetoric that I have heard about with James J. Dillon and Jim Cornette. One dressing room just might not be large enough for those 4 guys, or 6 guys, I should say, adding Jim Cornette and J.J. Dillon to the entourage. We're going to hear from Nature Boy Ric Flair a little bit later in the program, and he has some very pointed comments in rebuttal, so to speak, of what we have heard moments ago from the Total Package Lex Luger. Also, Chris Champion will be here with a big surprise that he has told me about that we are extremely anxious to witness here on the Superstation. Mike Jackson. Jackson has used his quickness to offset Riddle's size advantage.
Well, there is no doubt Mike Jackson's the type of guy who will back down from nobody, intimidated by no one. He has gone after the real big guns right here on the Superstation and has really made a good showing. But, you know, I'm really impressed also by young Curtis Thompson. A lot of power in this young man. Not only that, a lot of confidence, and you really need it. Look at that.
All right, Curtis Thompson, the big, powerful youngster from North Carolina, Curtis Thompson. You can tell he spends a lot of time in the gymnasium pumping that iron. And Curtis Thompson and Mike Jackson. Write this one down in your book. Curtis Thompson and Mike Jackson, winners on the Superstation.
This has to be one of the biggest moments in Curtis Thompson's career right here. But right now, fans, let's go to our Spam Slam of the Week.
Spam Slam is brought to you by Hormel, makers of Spam and other grocery products.
One of the most awesome moves in professional wrestling, the double team by the Road Warriors and the clothesline off of the top. Hawk coming off, Animal holding the man down, and the gigantic flip. The Road Warriors with our Spam Slam of the Week.
Spam Slam is brought to you by Hormel, makers of Spam and other grocery products.
Facing a World Championship Wrestling still to come. Chris Champion will be here. Plus, we're going to hear from Jim Cornette. We're going to see beautiful Bobby Eaton in action. We're also going to see Al Perez in a special feature involving the reuniting of the Texas Outlaws, Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch. But ladies and gentlemen, right now, we're going to focus on the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Tony, I had the opportunity to talk to Ric Flair also a few days ago, and the champion, full of confidence. He really feels like that he will put this thing to rest once and for all, that he is superior to Lex Luger.
There's no doubt. Say what you want to about the Nature Boy Ric Flair, the World Heavyweight Champion. He has the total confidence in the ring. We have the total package Lex Luger. We have the man with the total confidence, Ric Flair. He walked out of Baltimore. We all saw it. Very fortunate to still be the World Heavyweight Champion, but he was. And let's hear the interview conducted. Lex Luger, Ric Flair, the rematch for the World Heavyweight title. There's no doubt this man is not going to do anything different than he's done before in the ring.
Well, when you've been where I have been my entire life, Tony Schiavone, and each and every day of your life, you look into that mirror and it feels says, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? And the mirror says, you are Nature Boy, because you are the world champion. You are the very best, and you represent the greatest wrestling organization in the world today. And Lex Luger, you, my friend, have got one last date with destiny. You know how it goes. I become richer. I become more famous. I become recognized above all else as the very best in this sport. And you, my friend, put your notoriety and your future on the line. The match is signed.
and delivered one last opportunity. You big golden Adonis. Think about it, Luger. You've got to walk the aisle. This time, knowing in your heart and in your mind, you've got one last opportunity. One shot at the biggest trophy of all. You've got a chance to beat Ric Flair for the World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship. That's all you got to do, Lex. But remember, my friend, on all those sleepless nights, as the butterflies get bigger and bigger, this time could be your last time. Because, my friend, I'm tired of Lex Luger. I'm tired of hearing your name. I'm tired of hearing these morons holler Luger, Luger. I'm tired of all that. And when you're on top of your game, like I am, pal, you make the rules. So, Luger, this time could be your last time.
Chris Champion, John Valentine tie-up to begin things here on the Superstation. Glad to have you with us. We still have a lot more action to go. It's good to see Chris Champion. He's one of the premier athletes, young athletes in our sport.
He certainly is. And one thing to very quickly mention here, Nature Boy Ric Flair still has that unmitigated confidence in his abilities. And he is, without a doubt, the greatest heavyweight wrestling champion. Oh, what a move there by Chris Champion. He's got great flexibility, this kid. He's got a martial arts background that a lot of fans are not aware of, but he just hasn't used it a great deal.
That time, Valentine backs away from that one. But Champion levels him with an arm across the throat. Clothesline maneuver.
Valentine, a big rangy competitor here for Chris Champion. But Ric Flair and Lex Luger, the confrontation, and I understand the stipulation's been added. The attending people at ringside are going to be a little bit more liberal in their attitudes in regard to the stipulation. I understand it will not be stopped for blood in this situation. So I think that's going to, I don't know if it's going to have an effect on the match or not. It would have had a major effect on the outcome in Baltimore. I'll tell you something, Chris Champion is one young man that has come back from a lot of adversity. We know that he was in a very serious car accident. You can see that his left arm is some of the results of that accident. But he has rehabilitated himself. He has worked hard to get back in great condition. I've always been impressed with his maneuvers. He's done some things in the squared circle that you just don't see very often. An athlete with his abilities come along once in a decade or so.
Slams the man down, Valentine, and now Chris Champion. This must be the surprise right here. Valentine, oh!
He kicked him right in the jaw. I mean, that was a move.
Talk about martial arts skill, Jim. What a move that was.
Interesting maneuver here. We'll take another look at it. Watch the impact and watch the right foot.
This is right, like you said, right in the mouth. Oh, what a move. Great camera work there. And that is a phenomenal move. Chris Champion looking good right here on the Superstation. Now let's go to Jim Ross.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, never a dull moment with this man around. And I want to tell you something. I'm really...
Tell me anything.
No, well, look, may I ask...
You can speak. Go
okay,
ahead.
thank you.
Speak.
Thank you. I am very impressed, excuse me. I'm very impressed with your negotiations, and I think I want to wish you guys the best of luck against Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard.
You know something, all my life I've tried to do things right, but if I ever get you or David Crockett or Tony Schiavone agreeing with me, then I know I got to make some drastic changes. But you see, the fact of the matter is, beautiful Bobby, one half of the Midnight Express here today, Sweet Stan Lane, not able to be here today because he was sick last week. Now, I know you're going to say, if he was sick last week, why ain't he here today? Fact of the matter is, he met so many nurses while he was in the hospital, he's going to be busy for 4 more days. But you know, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, James J. Dillon, everybody's talking about it. The whole wrestling world is buzzing. All the fans are talking. They're saying it's a wrestling fan's dream match. The Midnight Express versus Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson for the World Tag Team title. Now, what are we up against? I know we got different lifestyles. There's a lot of stuff going on around the circle of this thing. For example, the Four Horsemen, they like to ride around in limousines. I know they do that because my mother owns the company that they rent the limousines from. And
I know that the four horsemen like to go out drinking because many is the time that beautiful Bobby has slung Arn Anderson over his shoulder like a babbling fool, carried him home, and poured him into his bed. And I know that the four horsemen like to go out with lovely ladies because Tully Blanchard every Friday night is down on his hands and knees in front of Sweet Stan. Please, Stan, just give me one phone number. Just one phone number. Sweet Stan, as a matter of fact, he doesn't have a little black book. He's got a 10-volume set that looks like the Trenton, New Jersey phone directory. So the four horsemen you see, they're maybe not all they cracked up to be when you compare them with beautiful Bobby and Sweet Stan, the Midnight Express. And I'll tell you what's more, James J. Dillon, I know that you're one of the greatest minds of professional wrestling, JJ. I've always had the greatest respect for him. And I know that in addition to that, he had a long and varied career in professional wrestling as a wrestler. I've seen pictures of him with those cute little short boots, the wool tights.
Wool tights?
Wool tights. I understand he once held Frank Gotch to a time limit draw. But let me tell you something, JJ. The Edsel was a hot car in its day, and steak used to be 29 cents a pound. And Jim Cornette's What's Happening Today, and the Midnight Express are What's Happening Today. So, JJ, I don't think you can guide people as well as you say you do because, you know, Tully and Arn were coming home from the match the other night driving back, and they got lost and drove for hours and hours, and finally they realized they weren't reading the road map. They were looking at JJ's varicose veins. So let me tell you something. You better be ready. And right now, this little pudgy Pillsbury Doughboy in the ring better be ready because you people are fixed to see one half of the U.S. Tag Team Champions and the highest flying man in wrestling, the Sultan of Swing, beautiful Bobby.
And we'll have that, ladies and gentlemen, right after this very brief.
Hey, here we are, beautiful Bobby against Jerry Phelps.
You know, Tony, Cornette said that James J. Dillon had a tremendous mind, and Cornette's got a great mind, but as the old saying goes, a mind is such a terrible thing to waste.
You know, hearing Cornette, it's getting ugly, Jim, between these
Well, I'll tell you what, the reason I was...
It's getting ugly around here. It was ugly the day that Jim Ross joined the telecast. Wait a minute. Come here, Bobby.
I'm one of your biggest fans. Why are you saying that?
Hey, come on, chin down. Hold on, mama.
Come on, Gary. Gary. Come on, Gary. There you go, Jim.
You know, you're a pretty good intimidator, but I don't think it's going to work against Blanchard and Anderson and James J. Dillon.
And he knows
Are you
that.
going to change your
He knows
tactics
that,
a little bit?
I don't change anything for anybody. I do what I want, when I want, where I want, and how I want, and so does the Midnight Express. And we don't change nothing for nobody, brother. I'm going to get that straight right now. And as far as intimidation goes, the fact of the matter is I intimidate this little punk right here just by being around, and so does beautiful Bobby. But Tully and Arn and JJ, they're used to the big boy. They play hardball. Well, we play hardball too, and I don't have to come out here and insult them to intimidate them. They're intimidated when they get in the ring with the U.S. Tag Team Champions. They're intimidated when they get in the ring with the team that for the past 3 years has ruled the NWA, beating everybody, talking about superpowers, Road Wars, Rock and Roll Express, fantastic. We have come out on top of everybody. That's what intimidates the Four Horsemen because they never dreamed, they never realized in their wildest fears that they would ever have to get in the ring and wrestle a Midnight Express. They thought all the dressing room politics would take care of it. They thought that maybe because Tully and Arn and Bobby and Stan always got along real well, because beautiful Bobby's Arn Anderson's best friend, they thought that it would never come to pass. But the fact of the matter is, I know it's going to surprise you, Jim, but I don't have a lot of close friends, you know?
I heard that.
I know that surprises a lot of people, but I don't have a lot of close friends. I have business associates, and that's what James J. Dillon is to me, is a business associate. And what we were going to do, we were going to be nice about the whole thing. We were going to be sportsmen. We were going to wait until somebody beat Tully and Arn for the belt.
You were going to take the honorable way out, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We were going to wait till somebody beat Tully and Arn, and then we were going to beat them. But you see that right there? Beautiful Bobby up on the top rope. Hope he don't hang himself on the light cord. It's only about 22 feet up today. That is what Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard fear. The martial arts of Sweet Sand Lane, that's what Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard fear. And most of all, my mind, that's what Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, and J.J. Dillon fear. And that's why they never wanted this to come to pass.
Okay, well, Tony, you're going to get a chance to listen to some more of this. Let's take one look at off the top rope comes Bobby Eaton. Got a nice niece and nephew in Huntsville, Alabama, I understand, this Bobby Eaton.
Yes, he sure does. Danny and Gina Eaton of Huntsville, and beautiful Bobby, certainly a phenomenal athlete, and he's your winner in this singles match here on the Superstation. Okay, we're with James J. Dillon. I know you heard all the comments made out of here by your counterpart, Jim Cornette.
Well, I've heard Jim Cornette making light of the situation, and there's one of the fans back up here, if the camera can get a shot of it, holding up a sign, and I think that sign says it all for me, and that is 4 horsemen and 4 titles. I'm not out here to mince words with Jim Cornette. I've always had a lot of respect for him. We've kind of been friends even though we've marched to different beats and followed different paths. The last time we were in Louisville, Jim Cornette graciously invited us all to come over to the mansion. We get over there, yeah, they got the nice champagne all chilled out, but we had to drink it out of these funny little shaped glasses, and we had to drink it through straws because Mama thinks that's cute.
Hey, wait a minute, First of all, that guy's been bringing signs over here for 6 months, and that's the first time he spelled all the words right. And second of all, those were julep glasses, and if you knew anything about it, you'd realize that. But the only thing that you ever drink is Ripple and Boone's Farm, you Foster Brooks look-alike, because that's your style.
Let me tell you something. You know, you can stand out here and you can make fun of the 4 horsemen. You can run them down as individuals, and certainly there are opponents that come a lot larger than Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. They come a lot smaller and a lot quicker. But a funny thing is, each night when the matches end and we pack the bags to leave the arena, what goes on top of the bag in a special case is the World Tag Team title belt. And I've been watching your face. I've been watching your face all throughout the back. Every time we pull up in one of the limousines, I know it eats your hearts out because you're coming in the taxi cab.
The only reason it eats my shut up, you redneck. The only reason it eats my heart out is because we have never had a chance to wrestle for those belts, or we'd have them. But I tell you what, when we do wrestle Tully and Arn, and when we beat you for the belts, if it'll make you happy, you can still put them in that nice special case, and your boys can carry them around for us. Would that make you feel any better, huh?
Let me give you one little special piece of advice. When you show up for the match, because apparently you're going to see this thing through.
Oh, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there.
I'll give you a little special advice. Leave your tennis racket home.
Leave my tennis racket home, huh? Leave something about my tennis racket? You don't lie. I'll tell you what, JJ. I might leave my tennis racket home, but I might bring it because you might need it. Because you got a real bad habit of letting those shoes of yours, those little $12.99 Buster Brown specials, get away from you at ringside. Well, if that shoe comes off your foot when that match takes place with the Midnight Express, then you're going to need this tennis racket. It's going to be an extra-large shoehorn to dig that shoe out of your ear where it's going to get stuck by me or the Midnight Express.
All right, fans. Perez to square off against Rick Allen. Gary Hart, of course, at ringside, and one of the true great athletes in our sport, which since arriving to the NWA, his win-loss record has been phenomenal, but more than that, the man's ability in the ring is great, but Gary Hart outside has made him even tougher.
Well, Gary Hart is a tremendous strategist, and I think if you look at all the managers in wrestling, Gary Hart and J.J. Dillon closely parallel with each other. They both have had a great deal of tenure in the sport. They are veterans. They have had great success with managing some of the biggest, some of the greatest careers in the NWA and in other areas. So, but their association together now, that we have seen the money that was paid to Ronnie Garvin. We know that Gary Hart now is basically managing and advising Ronnie Garvin. My thoughts are, you look at two great individuals like Garvin and Perez, and you look at all these other individuals. I want to talk to Al Perez, or to Gary Hart, excuse me, about this, is the tag team title situation. Everybody seems to be getting involved in it. I wonder what thoughts that Hart would have with this man, Al Perez, and Ronnie Garvin. We got to talk about Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes is a marked man, according to Gary Hart and to James J. Dillon.
Spinning toe hold. Not only that, you talk about James J. and Gary Hart together. They have a common purpose, and that is to destroy Dusty Rhodes, to put him out of the sport.
Well, Dusty Rhodes, as I have mentioned, is working on his second decade in professional wrestling. He sustained some serious injuries over his career. I'm sure Hart and Dillon know those injuries very, very well. And we'll talk about Dusty Rhodes' situation, but look at this phenomenal move. He's a great one, ladies and gentlemen, with a spinning toe hold. Al Perez and Gary Hart have joined me here at our desk as we take a look at the spinning toe hold from the Latin sensation. Another victory for this man, Gary Hart. We've got a lot of things to talk about. We obviously need to talk about the situation involving your people in the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Well, we have heard a situation a few moments ago between James J. Dillon and Jim Cornette that all started because Cornette challenged Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard for the World Tag Team titles. Taking into consideration your close allegiance with James J. Dillon, that would not stand in the way of you negotiating favorably for this man and Ronnie Garvin for a title opportunity if it came up.
Of course not, because one thing we all must remember, once the match is signed during the ring, the bell rings, the boss comes out with the title. But I will say one thing. If Jim Cornette would talk to me the way he talked to James J. Dillon, I would take that tennis racket and I would shove it down his throat and he'd look like a creamsicle. I realize that James J. Dillon is a gentleman and he doesn't want to have problems. That's why JJ and I get along so well. But when there is a two-bit creep like Cornette, he is nothing to me but a parasite in the wrestling business. I would spit in your face, punk. You better never come and get in my face.
Well, a man that did get in your face, Gary, we saw at the very top of the program, is the big man from Allen, Texas, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Let's tell the world why he's from Allen, Texas, born and raised in Austin. The truth of the matter is his father beat two men to death with his bare hands in the hill country. You know it as well as I do. Dusty Rhodes cannot even show his face in Austin, Texas. He had to move to Allen, Texas. Hey, looky here. The best of the best.
Thank you very
Good
much.
to see you.
Let me tell you one thing. Right here is sometime going to be the future heavyweight champion of the world. Take a look at the heartthrob. He's managed by the greatest manager of all time, the evil genius himself. But, Mr. Hart, I'd like to say one thing.
You call me Gary.
Oh, Gary, let me tell you one thing. Nobody knows Dusty Rhodes in the ring better than I do. I've wrestled him in Singapore, Hong Kong, Tampa, Daytona Beach, you name it. But I'll tell you something. We can get the job done, and we...
You know where I want to do it? I want to do it in Texas. I want to do it in his home state.
Can I ask you one thing? You said something to me about Texans one time. I can't remember the exact quote. What was it?
I said the only thing that is worse than one Texan is two, and especially when they're that ugly. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back with more exciting World Championship Wrestling, and we'll look at the reuniting of the Texas Outlaws right after this timeout.
Fans, as we said at the top of the program, Dusty Rhodes, Dick Murdoch, for 9 long years, the most dominant tag team in wrestling, reunited once again, the Texas Outlaws.
Two of the toughest men in the sport, two native Texans, two Texas-born, Texas-bred individuals. Now let's go to our colleague, Bob Cottle, who's going to be talking with the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and then we'll see Captain Redneck in action.
There's the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Dusty, you've been noticeably absent in recent weeks after Ronnie Garvin turned on you.
Well, let me tell you something, Bob Cottle. Let me tell everybody throughout the world what Dusty Rhodes has been doing. What Dusty Rhodes has been doing is very simple. It boils down to Ronnie Garvin and Dusty Rhodes. Head up. Gary Hart comes out here playing the desert, talking about my family, talking about the people in Macon, Georgia. Day after day, night after night, I see the lines being drawn. Dr. Death Steve Williams, Nikita Koloff-Stiga, Lex Luger, the Rock and Roll Express, the many great fantastics now gathering the lines. But most of all, somebody came back to Dusty Rhodes after all these years. My main man now stands with Sting, now stands with Nikita, now stands with us and Doc and all of us and the Road Warriors. And that man, my man, the outlaw, Dick Murdoch now is my man, baby. So Gary Hart, if you're listening, I'm going to leave a wake-up call for you, Daddy. The American Dream going to leave a wake-up call for you. If I see you anywhere, any place, I'm going to take it to you. Because, Bob Collins, one thing is for sure, Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, now takes heed and pride in delivering to you, Ronnie Garvin, you, Al Perez, to the Varsity Club, to the Midnight Express, to all of them now, the Horsemen, a lot of pain, blues, and agony, baby.
Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. You heard him talk about the man in the ring. Let's go to the ring right now. And here he is, Jim Ross. There's Captain Redneck, Dick Murdoch.
Well, Dick Murdoch has always been a very colorful, controversial figure in the world of professional wrestling. There's not anything in the squared circle that he can do or hasn't done. A very, very accomplished athlete, but what he is above all is he is one of the most physical men ever in the sport of professional wrestling. And here he is.
It's unpredictable. If that's any indication of what we can expect from the Outlaws, Dick Murdoch, it's going to be hot.
Well, Colin, let's get one thing straight. You know, through the years, Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch, whenever they wanted to fight each other or whenever they wanted to fight someone else, they never asked for help. All the years that I was against Dusty Rhodes, I had money on him. I didn't ask for no help from no one. And when Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch formed the original Texas Outlaws, they were the greatest tag team combination I ever set foot on the face of the earth. We didn't have to pay our place to that walk radio music. It come time to fight, baby, we fought. We won the World's Heavyweight Tag Team Wrestling Championships, and we held them till we got rid of them. Now, Ronnie Garvin, you come out there and you had to help Barry Windham against Dusty Rhodes. I didn't say a word, because this man can fight his own battles. But up in Detroit, Kevin Sullivan and the Sheik, you got just a little bit out of line, buddy. I signed a contract to be Kevin Sullivan's partner against him and the Sheik, and I did my dead level best in that corner to help win that match. But when it get out of control, they both got on and tried to take his man's eye out. Well,
If you have the sheep herders in the ring twice in one program, would you consider this a treat?
Well, I'll tell you something. I needed a shower in my earlier interview with those guys. Talk about wash and wear clothing. Big Bear Collie and the nephew of the Sheep Herders, Rip Morgan. And the Sheep Herders, just another tremendous team. We've talked a lot about tag team wrestling here today, Tony. And the Rock and Roll Express, of course, 4 times champions of the world. They won another shot at it. The Fantastics recently lost the U.S. title in controversial fashion to the Midnight Express. They're still in the hunt. How can we forget talking about the awesome Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, who along with Dusty Rhodes are the 6-man champions of the world. They are viable contenders for the U.S. titles or the World Tag Team titles. And then we can't overlook Paul Jones' Russian duo. All these great teams, and that's why I'm saying the month of August is the hottest month of the year in a lot of regions of the country, and I think it may be the hottest month for the NWA.
And it's hot because of the rematch between Ric Flair and Lex Luger. Don't forget, Dusty Rhodes, not only would he like the U.S. title, but he wants to get his hands on Ron Garvin. We talked about Arn and Tony, the Midnight Express, Sting making his challenge to Barry Windham, Dr. Death making his challenge to Mike Rotunda, wants to bring it home to Tulsa, Oklahoma, by the way. And Brad Armstrong, a man we have seen earlier, certainly a man to make his name in the month of August in the NWA.
Very impressed with the efforts today of two youngsters, Brad Armstrong and also Chris Champion, looking extremely good today. You know, fans, we look forward to seeing all you fans in the Bay Area. Of course, that is tonight at the Kaiser Convention Center in Oakland. Tickets on sale at all Bass ticket outlets in the Bay Area. And tomorrow night, Tony and I will be in Kansas City at Kemper Arena for another great night, the first Great American Bash ever in Kemper. It's going to be a tremendous night. Looking forward to seeing all our fans from that area. And we look at right here. Hey, he's the flag bearer, but he's a big man. They could get a smaller man to be the flag bearer. He's there for a purpose, and he could be the deciding factor in a tag team championship.
With the month of August coming around, there is no doubt with the confrontations out there, the Horsemen not only having their troubles with Lex Luger, but for the Midnight Express and Jim Cornette, the action is really going to be hot during the month of August.
It certainly is. The rematch sign, Ric Flair and of course, Lex Luger in intense training. It's going to be a tremendous situation. And what about the World Tag Team title situation? We'll have a lot more to talk about right here next week.
And David Crockett will be back with us at that time. For Jim Ross, I'm Tony Schiavone. From all of us at the NWA, the Superstation, we'll see you next week ringside with the Major League of Professional Wrestling.